Welcome to this webinar series, which is a part of the Investor Education and Awareness Initiative of Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund in association with Outlook Money. Now, Indian women have been remarkable savers, but still, women's participation in household finances has been mostly limited to managing everyday budget on a fixed sum that is usually shared with them. This is a reality for most households, even where women are working even today. So they are either not allowed to take money decisions on their own, or in other cases, they do not feel confident enough to do that on their own. The latter can be perhaps solved by working to spread financial literacy among women. Because having the required knowledge can give the confidence to women to even assert themselves within a household when it comes to participating in the financial decisions. Having the required knowledge can give the confidence to women and even help them assert themselves within a household to participate in the financial decisions. Today, on the occasion of the International Women's Day, we have gathered to discuss this important aspect of women's financial lives. For the discussion, I have with me panelists who excel in the financial domain and are passionate about financial literacy. I would like to introduce Kamayani Aniruddh Nagar, Head of Retail Sales, Aditya Birla Sun Life Mutual Fund, Kiran Telang, Certified Financial Planner, a SEBI registered investment advisor, and author of Mindful Retirement and Money Wise Perspectives for Women. And of course, Shweta Jain, CFP, founder and CEO, Investography Private Limited, and author of a book called My Conversations with Money. So let me start with something that can put the spotlight on the importance of financial literacy in women's lives. So my first question is for you, Kamayani. Can financial literacy make a difference in women's lives, and how do you think it can happen?
Financial literacy actually is extremely important for everybody, let alone women. And if you ask me personally, Nidhi, women are actually very good money managers because they balance the home economics very well. They balance between the expenses and the income in a very, I would say, very adept manner. But however, when it comes to more detailed for finances, in terms of investments, in terms of being able to see plan for their retirement or plan for their child's education. I think somewhere or the other, either we just don't take enough interest or we are not allowed to make decisions on our own, which was a point that you put up earlier. So I think financial literacy in all, for all intents and purposes for women will make a huge lot of a difference, not only in terms of working women, but also in terms of more thoughts and more participation of women in the overall financial decisions which are taking place in the household. And the only and the best way I would say to do this is to have more and more education, to make people, to make women more and more aware of the fact that they too can participate, that it is not rocket science, that it is not something which they will not be able to understand, it is not something that requires them to have a mathematics degree. So these are all various kinds of objections that you normally get, or that it is not only the husbands or the male of the household's domain to be able to do investments. So it is just that I think being able to tell them, being able to make them aware of what all they are themselves capable of taking decisions on will go a long way in helping us spread financial literacy among women.
Great. So, something that you were also mentioning earlier, that if to some extent the word allowed may not be may not be right, because there are households who are kind of allowing, especially in the urban domain, to for women to educate themselves, go for higher studies, pursue their careers, etc. So, from that logic, the younger generation, we see more of the younger generation in the workforce now. So, coming to you, Shweta, when women are kind of beginning their career journey, they're just at the beginning, at the cusp of it. What are the basic things that they can keep in mind in terms of financial literacy? Because all these days they have been focusing on their studies or their career. They haven't had really the time to focus on financial literacy as such. So, what will be your advice?
Thanks, Nidhi. Thanks for having me, and thanks for this wonderful question because I'm quite passionate about young women getting the right education, So when it comes to money, I think what happens as soon as they start earning money, the first tendency is to enjoy that money or spend a lot of it. One, maybe because of need, but the other is because for a long time, or for the first time, they've got this newfound freedom, So it's really difficult for them to fathom that they should be saving. We are as humans sort of wired to enjoy the now and we enjoy the today, right? And think about it later. We're not like squirrels who want to sort of stash away first. But having said that, younger women do start to think about the right things, right? Saying, what is the right thing to do? And I think at that point, it's really important that they get the right guidance to sort of start off. And to that end, whether it's good education, online, offline, trusted advisors, or trusted content. I don't want to say influencers, but trusted content, right? So wherever it's the right space, and they can get good content that they can connect with,
Mm.
whether it's in terms of budgeting. I think the first and the most important thing is how to spend money wisely. I know we're here to discuss how to invest wisely, but I think throughout our lives, right? Why are we earning money, saving money, investing money? We are doing all of this to spend it. So
Mm.
the first and foremost thing is how to spend it wisely. So to teach them how to budget is, I think, if we get that right, I think everything else will fall into place. So whether it's differentiating between needs and wants, which again nobody teaches us in school, which we have to figure out by ourselves. Okay, saying what is need at this moment, what is want, because what is want at one stage becomes a need at another stage. So how do you sort of differentiate that? Also at various social strata, right? What is a need or what is a want to one is absolutely a need to another at that same age and stage. So how do you differentiate yours and not compare it necessarily to somebody else's, and still make sure that you have the right habits? So forming habits at this stage is, I think, so crucial, that even if you invest 1,000 rupees monthly, for example, and that's how I start off with, when you're young, doesn't matter how much you invest. What matters is that you invest, right? Of course, if you had invested 10,000, you'd become a crorepati, 10 years earlier than you would have. But that's not the point. The point is to get into the right habits. The point is also not to sort of understand that you can't splurge, because we do want some nice things, not just the need things. We do want the nice things to feel that we're worth it, to feel that what we are doing with our time is worth it, that we are a lot of women still today sort of have this struggle, whether it's to be financial independent, whether it's to be working outside homes. It is a struggle. So when you reward yourself with some of these nice things, you feel that all that struggle is worth it. So I think without forcing them to just go by needs, uh, having that balance and understanding that is really important. So first is of course budgeting, and the second is making sure that they're doing the right habits. So even if it's 1,000 rupees, just make sure that that right habit. And I think the third thing and the most important thing is getting somebody that you can trust, or something that you can trust. I know a lot of women, while they would want to do this, don't know where to start, don't know how to start, don't know who to trust. Because see, of course, not having money is a different problem, but when you have a little money, you want to save it, and which is why FDs are so popular, right? Because it may not grow, but it's still there with you. Nobody's taking it away from you. It's there with your trusted banker. Uh, if you see, for example, on Amazon Prime, wedding.com, right? How women get conned all the time. So having somebody that they can trust, having content that they can trust is really, really crucial. And I think ForHer is a great plug there. And I think we can make huge strides in women empowerment with this.
Okay, great. In fact, that is a very but I was going to cross question you on that, but you talked about it yourself that at that age there may be more wants that you may really want to kind of, I'm again using the word want, that you would really want in your life, and maybe that's the age to enjoy also. So of course, very pertinent to say that, it's about building habit at that early age that can, maybe help you fulfill those wants later also. So coming to you, Kiran, we've been discussing this particular age cohort with Shweta, but a little if we go a little higher, and there are a number of housewives in India still, there the number of working women is increasing, but still there are so many housewives in India who are doing things on their own, and they may not have their income of their own all the time. So what are the strategies do you think would work for housewives when it comes to financial literacy, and not just financial literacy, financial participation in household decisions? Hmm.
Uh, Thank you, Nidhi, for this wonderful question. See, actually, housewives tend to be a neglected lot when it comes to, financial literacy and everything associated with that. I think they stand to be in a very powerful position in the whole discussion about money and money management and, family finances. So if you look at wealth creation, there are two crucial elements to it. One is income and one is expenses. And what is missing in today's world is a track of expenses. We know the earnings, we know the sources of income, which are limited.
Hmm.
But the spending is through so many channels now. Earlier, it used to be simple cash and bank account, right? Now we have credit cards, we have wallets, and there are n number of ways to spend the money. So actually, we end up losing track of how much is going where, so there is no tracking on that sort. So I think housewives are in a very, very strong position to, take care of that bit of it. So tracking of things, how the household is spending money is a very good way to begin to understand the family finances. And
Hmm.
once you get involved in that bit of it, you will also know the whys and hows of, the investment that is being made.
Hmm.
So while she might not have her income, she can be a part of the discussion, the part of the decision making in terms of where the family money is going to get spent. On the other side, we were talking about needs and wants, right? So who better in a position to decide where to spend the money? So the decision of needs and wants, right from managing the household money on the kind of food that we are eating, or the
Hmm.
kind of entertainment that's happening, or what kind of habits you're building in the children, in terms of giving pocket money or how they're spending, delayed gratification, so all those concepts can be very well controlled by a woman who's a homemaker.
Hmm.
So for a homemaker, it becomes a very, very strong position to monitor and manage all these things. So once you know these aspects and you're a part of the decision making, you're obviously empowered because you know the money is there. And if at all, if something goes wrong in the future, the homemaker will be in a very good position to understand how to take care of things. Usually things fall apart when untoward incidents happen, when the primary breadwinner of the family is no more, or there is some incapacitation, or there are things like job loss or, occurrences which nobody wants in their own life, but it happens more often than not. And that is when the women of the house feel a little fearful about how they're going to survive. So it's a matter of survival and management. So once they know that they'll be able to manage because they've been part of all these decisions and they understand the cash flow of the household. So it becomes easier to handle things in those cases as well.
Right. In fact, that reminds me of a very interesting case. I'll be talking about my own magazine. So, this time, the Women's Day cover story is on Tapasi Pannu, and I went and interviewed her on her financial decisions. She has done a lot of women oriented films, and she's been talking about certain financial things. So, during the conversation, it just came up that, initially, because her father was not very supportive of her decision to take up modeling and acting, how did she fund herself? So, what she told me was that her mother, who's a homemaker, she had a substantial saving that she had over the years, and from the same budget that they get every month, these women are able to make these small kitties with which they are able to make these independent decisions of, in this case, helping her daughter take up a career, that the larger family may not approve of. So what what you said, Kiran, about homemakers, a lot of it starts from there, on how independently even the kids can kind of chart their own course eventually. So yeah, a great impact can happen from that area, and financial literacy among homemakers can make all the difference. But I'll come back to you, Shweta, because we were discussing earlier your book on my conversations with money, and where you have kind of talked about how the Gen Z is handling their money, and Gen Z is somebody is that cohort which is probably not in a job right now. They may not have their own income to start saving, etc. So what are some of the takeaways from your book, and if you could share a few thoughts on that cohort as well, and especially among women.
Okay, yeah. So I have my book right in front of me, and I'm actually referring to it while we speak. So one of the things I think Gen Z does do quite well is create these lovely vision boards, have Instagrammable things that they can, whether it's going to a vacation or going somewhere with their family, or planning to buy something substantial, whether it's a new video game or whatever. So I know my son, who's now a teenager, does all of this, right? He'll have like some fancy thing that he'll want to pick up, and he'll start saving towards it. And our thing as parents is that, you save X amount, we will add the similar amount so that we can buy that sooner rather than later. The incentive there is that from your pocket money, you keep saving these things, right? The other incentive for him is to sort of tabulate where he's spending. So making sure that, he knows what he's doing with that, whether it's to gifting to friends, gifting family members, spending on junk food, whatever it is. So as long as he's tabulating some of these things, it's fantastic. He also likes to be very involved with his portfolio, which he likes to see how his versus his younger brothers is doing, and he likes to see why we are investing in certain schemes. So I think just involving them in conversation. See, a lot of it we may think it's too much for a teenager, but you'll be surprised when you start off discussing money, right? So to family members or parents, I think it's quite important that they start talking to their kids about money in an, of course, age appropriate manner, but just concepts, right? Whether it's saving or their experiences with money, and more importantly, their mistakes with money, because a lot of mistakes do happen from us as well, right? So whether it's spending at the wrong places, or taking loans at high interest, or not paying that credit card bill, so where you've overspent. So I myself have had incidents like that, right? Despite being a financial planner for 20 years, there was a time when I didn't pay the entire credit card bill one time. So that one time I actually do tell my son, that, but this was the amount and I paid only the minimum, and next month it was this amount. And he's like, how is that even possible? So I said, yes, that's exactly. So it shows two things. One is, of course, how that mistake can grow or compound, as well as how we as parents also make mistakes. So it's okay for them to make mistakes. I think one of the reasons women shy away from making big decisions with money is because as women, we're taught to be, perfect. We are expected not to make any mistakes. Now, while I don't have daughters, I have two sons. I do tell my sons that, it's okay to make mistakes. You're not going to be penalized for making mistakes. I think it's important. And even as Gen Z or people or women just beginning to invest, right? It's okay to make those mistakes, because at this point, the mistakes don't cost as much as what they would cost, say, 10 years later, right? So it's a sort of a course fee, if you will, or a learning fee that you're giving, so that you learn this faster and sooner rather than later. And that's something that I have spoken about in my book as well. And when you sort of figure out where you want to go, so like I spoke about the vision board, right? So if you know what you are buying later, or where you're going later, saving today becomes easier. So it's that, nice forever new dress versus, say, saving for my vacation in Greece. I'd rather go to vacation in Greece than spend 20,000 here right now. So then this temptation is lesser because I do have dresses. It's not like I don't have dresses, right? So that temptation is a little lesser when you know, okay, this is what I'm saving towards. So that is why the vision board sort of becomes really, really important, because then you see, don't see it as you're depriving yourself of something, but you're working on something that's really more important to you. I think it's all about perspective at that point, saying, what am I earning for? What am I saving for? Because if I tell you that, this is in XYZ mutual fund and XYZ scheme, you're like, no, I'd rather buy the dress, it obviously it is like that. Because as much as I would love for people to be excited about just investments and compounding, it really doesn't come. But when I tell them this XYZ scheme will make sure that your son or daughter will have that fancy destination wedding 10 years later, when in the news you're seeing a Mani wedding, it does really, yes, I would like to, while not at that scale, of course, but I would really like to do a destination wedding. So that SIP, that investment becomes so much more meaningful to invest and also to hold on to. So I think the same thing for Gen Z, right? So if you talk to them about backpacking in Europe a year later and making sure that you're saving for that, trust me, they'd be as frugal as maybe 40 or 60 years ago our nana nanis were or dada dadis were. They'd be more frugal than that, saying, no mama, don't spend on this, or I will not spend on this. I'll save every penny and save every rupee that comes. So it's all about what is important to them, right? Earlier generations, it was easier to save because there were lesser temptations, I would think. Also, a very different sort of lifestyle, very different sort of upbringing. Our children are now seeing everything that they need is there. So they don't really see the need to save because they're seeing that, okay, monthly salary aata hai, and, that is there. So that's quite comfortable. They're not seeing us struggle or being in between jobs and not have an emergency fund. They're not seeing that with us. So if they don't see us struggling, it's very difficult to fathom that kind of struggle or imagine that kind of struggle unless they're seeing it somewhere, right? So for them to also not see that, it's important for them to have these right things or right perspectives.
Right. So I'll differ from you very slightly, Shweta, because of course, you are absolutely right when you say that kids are fixing those goals can really they can encourage them to kind of do those SIPs, etc. But we are also seeing another trend along with it these days, which is that the younger generation, they like equity investing a lot, especially after COVID, because it's become almost like a game, because they can do it on their apps. They can
Yeah.
make it at they can do it at a just a click. So it's about collecting some coins or credit in a game. It's like the trading is equally very attractive for them because the interfaces are being experimented with, etc. So Kamayani, coming to you, you are from the investment space and the mutual fund space. Equity investing is really becoming popular now, but in your experience, are women who are generally seen as more conservative than men when it comes to investing, Kiran talked about FDs and other instruments that people consider. uh, do you think that kind of participation is also coming from this younger women in equity? And by equity, I mean not just stocks, but equity mutual funds as well, because they are also now available on apps which are very attractive.
In the current scenario, with the way the market is looking, I think about 35 to 36% women are equity investors versus about 64-65% are men. That's a recent study that has been done. So 35% women are taking decisions on equity investing, and we are seeing this number grow every day. The best part is that while we currently have got cities like Delhi NCR, Mumbai, Bangalore, and Pune, so seeing maximum participation from women in equity investing, but we also got a good instance of women who are not from the top 6 or the top 8 metros. who are also showing equity investment patterns. So I think the ease of investing, like you were referring to, in terms of the availability of the apps, everything simply being available at the click of a button, is making it a bit easier for women also to get into equity investing. While honestly, women are mostly more conservative investors. They would want to take lesser risks with the money. So you would have very few. I have all the number of women that and men that I have been handling over so many years. There have been very few women who will actually ask for, okay, I want an exotic risk prone product. Most of them would just want to be more of saving the money rather than just so. They would also look at a more conservative rate of return versus a man probably. But I do see more participation coming in from women on equity investing, and I'm sure this trend will keep increasing as it goes forward. Another point that I wanted to make is that women also are, I would say, more responsible. So, if the median age for investing, starting investing in men is 31 years, for women it starts at 34, 35 years. Largely because once women start earning, I think they first think of course, spending becomes, it's a newfound freedom, like Shweta was putting it, and spending becomes important. But they also find more reasons to use the money for their family, for their households, for their kids, rather than starting investing. Hence, you will see a trend where women investors generally start investing at a much later age, because there are so many other things that they are keen on doing. So I think equity investing, yes, lot more participation we can see. We need to have more and more women participating in the market. We need to make sure that they understand equity investing better. They understand how much they can what the power of compounding is, how much they can gain from equity investing, so that we can have more participation coming from not only the T30 but also the B30 cities.
Right. So that's interesting that, women's participation is increasing in equity, in fact. And Kiran, if you could throw light on, some of the aspects that financial literacy, and when it comes to equity, I think it becomes very, very important, financial literacy, because, there are so many risks that, especially the younger generation, they enter equity, especially this app generation, they enter equity without realizing the kind of risk it can come with. Yeah. And along with that, I would also ask you that if you could share some perspectives from your book as well, perspectives on women when it comes to their decision making in the household.
So, see, as far as equity investing goes, like Kamayani was saying, that it's become easier with all these apps and other things that have been made available. So, unfortunately, what's happening is that the ease of investing is being equated with expertise in investing,
Hmm.
which should not be the case. And also, what has happened is over the last few years, we've seen a secular bull run, kind of. So there have been very little times where there have been falls after the COVID period. So people have not seen the other side of it as how bad it can get. So for a lot of people, this could be more like a game, like Kamani was mentioning, that you just, enter and it's like collecting, or you were saying that collecting coins and, game points in a game. So the real shocker will come when equity market, the way it normally behaves, it goes up and it goes down. So when the downtrend happens, that is when people will realize that they need to be a little more responsible while using this tool. While in the long run, equity will create wealth, in the short term, it can, cause a lot of destruction if it's being played as a game rather than using as an investment tool. So I think that is something which people need to understand. And also, maybe there could be a segregation between what you're doing as your core investment and something which I call it as a mad money account. So there could be something which you want to try out new things with, or you just want to learn how new investments work. So there could be some amount of money which can be kept aside for those kind of learning, so that even if you lose that money, or there is some kind of issue where the money is stuck, it will not really impact your life in a big way. So that can be your mad money account. But your core investing, which is going towards creating wealth for your family, for your goals, that should be in well studied, well advised products. so that you don't lose out and you are not in a position where, you have to start again from zero after a few years. Because everything said and done, time is not going to come back. So once you lose that time in investing and in making mistakes, that is not going to come back. For youngsters, it's a little easier because the quantum of money that you're investing will be lower and the risks are lower. Like Shweta was mentioning earlier, the risks of loss will not really create devastating effect on your family. But as you grow ahead, as you have your own family who is dependent on your income, you have future goals, you have to save for your own retirement. And now with working lifespans becoming shorter because of a lot of things, people are retiring earlier or being forced to retire. So for those long-term goals, your tenure of saving is becoming very short. So you can't afford to lose time. So from that perspective, keep your core money in a well designed portfolio and keep some money apart which you can try out newer products for. So that was the equity part of investing. As far as financial literacy for women go, I think there are a few key aspects which differ between men and women. Why women should be more consciously aware of finances, money management, and everything related to that. Whatever said and done, there is a disparity in the pay. So men and women get paid differently. So it's more likely that the women get paid lesser. So you're starting with a lesser amount of investable surplus available to you. Apart from being paid lesser, we also end up spending more on the family, right? So we have lesser amount which we are actually saving and investing vis-a-vis a man in the house.
Right.
So that is the starting point of differentiation, what happens. Second is that women would probably take more breaks in their career. So it could be motherhood, it could be taking care of somebody who's not well in the family. So it's more likely that the woman will, sacrifice her career to take care of that. That again comes from the wage paid disparity. The woman is probably earning lesser than the man. So it is better amongst the two that she takes the break, So from that also, you're shortening your earning years that are available to you. So first you get paid less. Second, you're working for lesser number of years. So your accumulation of funds will be shorter. On the other hand, women tend to live longer, so you have a longer lifespan with shorter earning years. So you need to be more careful with investing your money. Studies show that women tend to have longer years as widows than a man has a widower. That also comes from our cultural upbringing where, in a marriage, the man is older than the woman. So the woman is likely to have more years as a single survivor later in the part. So that way also she will need to be not only having more money, but also being more aware of how to handle that money. Because if she's kind of leaving everything to the man in the house, and if he's not around, how is she going to manage that money? So there is very high likelihood that she will be conned out of that money, or she will get irresponsible advice as to how that money needs to be invested, and that in turn could lead her to become dependent on other people in her later years. So that is another crucial difference that women need to take care of. So I think these are the few factors which I would say make it very important for women to, right from their first earning years, to be more careful about how they save their money. As Shweta had mentioned earlier, initial years you have this tendency to spend on your wants and things like that, so which is okay. I feel there should be a critical look at how do you create a balance between spending and saving. So all these factors that I mentioned are going to impact women more than they're going to impact men. So I think women need to be more careful and more wise in doing their money decisions.
Right. Very, very pertinent takeaways, Kiran, on the kind of challenges that women have and they don't even realize or think about it when they go through their lives. About unequal pay, which is a reality, and other things that, longer lifespan and the likelihood of living alone without the spouse for a longer period of time compared to men. So these are the things that don't even cross the minds of a lot of women a lot of times, which it should, because the moment you talk about these things, they also get into this thing of I don't want to talk about morbid things, quote unquote, which shouldn't be, which also happens a lot when you talk about insurance. But to take the discussion in another direction, I would like to ask all of you individually to share a personal story on how becoming financially independent has kind of made a difference to your life, because that is something that will really inspire our women viewers today. So we can start with you, Kamayani.
Maybe I think it's the feeling of the fact that the feeling that I am not dependent on anybody for my spends, for my children's future. The fact that I have my retirement planning in place, or just the fact that I know I control what I will be, what my future may look like in terms of money, at least. Of course, nobody can predict the future, and I don't know what may happen a few years. I don't know what will happen tomorrow also. Forget few years down the line. But what is most important is that if we are to just put the whole thing in perspective, if I have to, retire early, or if I want to, if I am forced to live life without a spouse for some time, I know that my finances are very much in my hand. I don't have to be dependent on anybody. I don't have to be. I don't have to worry about getting conned out of my money. I don't have to worry about whether I'll be able to comfortably look at backpacking in Italy at an age of 16. I don't have to worry about all that. So it gives me liberty. It gives me mental peace, and it gives me the freedom to be able to decide how my financial future could look like. I think that's very, very important for anybody, specifically for women, because of all the things that we go through. In terms of breaks in our careers, or pay parity problems, or whatever we may look at, or the fact that like I said, we are more responsible in terms of spending for everybody in the family before it comes to us.
Mhm.
That's something that's ingrained in Indian women somehow. So, but I think if being financial literate, being able to invest, being able to save, and being able to understand what my what my risk profile is like, how much money I can put in what kind of instrument, I think it makes me just feel so much more at peace, I would say. I think that's the key word here.
That's great. Being at peace is, I think, is one of the greatest achievements that anybody can have, man or woman. But for women, I think it's much more important.
Yeah, well, Nidhi, actually, this question really made me think, how my career has progressed and how things have been for me all these years. So, looking back, I quit my corporate job when I was about 28 or 29. And, that actually could be taken as a step back from financial independence. So, probably at that point of time, financial independence was not at all possible because early part of the career, you haven't really not earned that much, so you can be financially independent. It takes a long time to actually arrive at financial independence. But what I feel is merging that goal of being financially independent with other things that you want to do in life. Like I wanted to see my child grow. So that was one key goal which was interspersed with the financial independence eventually. So while looking at financial independence, I think we should not, lose goal of how we want to live our lives. I think that intermingling is very important, and then you focus on things that you want to do. So even if you say take two steps back and then four steps forward, in the future, like I started my own business once I quit my corporate job,
Mm.
I could be on the path of financial independence, and it would take years. It would take a lot of patience. It would take a lot of discipline in terms of the savings that can be done because whenever you are on your own, you're not in a corporate job where salaries are coming in at the end of the month.
Mm.
There is that struggle where there could be some months where you have very little income or no income, or there could be other things which play out where your actual earning is much less than what you could earn being in a job. So
Mm.
those are difficulties which will come, but as long as you're focused on the kind of life that you want to live, I think eventually you will reach there. I think this question really made me think of, how women are looking at financial independence. So I think patience is one of the key factors and not losing track of the way you want to live your life.
Okay, great. Striking a balance, patience, and of course, being very focused on your goals, on what you want to do with yourself in future is what I take away from your story, Kiran. So next, Shweta, of course.
So I have a slightly different view from Kiran and Kamayani here, actually. And I see the question also in a little different light. And that's what I've been thinking about. So instead of becoming financially independent later, because that's a goal, right? That you're financially independent at some stage. For me, it was not being financially dependent on somebody, for your regular day-to-day life, for your big goals that may come in the near future, not necessarily just retirement, right? So for me, I think being able to take decisions where I was quite comfortable um, without any external sort of support, right? So whether it's taking a small sabbatical when I have my first child and making sure, that I'm not still dependent on my husband's income, because for me, that has always been important. I've been working even like odd jobs even when I was in college. So I hated being a dependent. I still do on anybody, right? So with my husband, it was like a team, right? It was a partnership. And so I didn't want to put any extra burden on him when this was a me thing, right? So I wanted to enjoy his sort of childhood a little more. So for me, not being dependent on him for that, being able to fund my own home, I think that was something that really mattered to me. So a lot of times when I would get tempted to buy things, I'm like, no, if I do this, I'm not going to be able to meet that goal of mine. So that kept me steady. So not being dependent on anybody sort of really pushed me to save and invest better. The other thing I think which really motivated me to sort of keep saving and keep investing smartly was to be that cushion for my husband, right? So when he wanted to say change a business, right? He went from one business to the other. And obviously, when you're starting a new business for a few years, you don't want to sort of keep pulling out from that. So for me, that was really important that I give him that support that he so well deserves. That boosted my confidence and, of course, helped our relationship, right? So a little bit of Kiran's takeaway there as well, that, how do you want to live your life? Right? So it's not all about money. It's about how you want this journey to be, how you want this life to be. So for me, being that cushion, being that support, being that pillar was so important for me. It may not have been as important to him because he would have been fine either ways. But for me to be there for him meant a lot to me. And to us as a family, I think it's brought us much closer and very close knit that, we are there for each other. So when I had wanted to start my own business after leaving my job 5.5 years ago now, it was a no-brainer, saying, yeah, of course, like, you don't have to worry about bringing an income right from day one. So that comfort, while it was not like a something, I give you, you give me, but it was just understood. So that I think is really important, and how beautifully money can be integrated in the good things. Sometimes we only see the bad things that money brings in, right? Whether it's, whether it's a sibling rivalry when it comes to wills, or, at the time when parents are distributing inheritance or whatever it is. Sometimes we do see the bad things about money, but I think this sort of brought in money beautifully for me, and to teach my child that, it's gender neutral. I can support dad, dad can support me. I think that was really important as well. So yeah, I think this was a great question.
Great answer to Shweta, Kiran, and Kamayani. It was great talking to you guys, and we have so many takeaways of how you can really build your life once you are financially sorted, and take decisions that can really matter to you and give you the confidence that all of us women deserve so much. So thank you on that note, and happy Women's Day to all of you.
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.